This program is brought to you by the Media Liberty Alliance Foundation in cooperation with OBBM Network TV, bringing citizen-led, creative local media to the forefront of local communities to foster a greater understanding of constitutional liberty and appreciation of what makes us truly free, starting with you and me.
The Zach Ratliff Show is brought to you by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Texas, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you're updated each time fresh content comes out. And thank you for being part of the Zach Ratliff Show. Hello, and welcome to the Zach Ratliff Show. I'm Zach. This is my friend Lyndsey. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You've got a new podcast coming out called In the Deep.
Yes, I do.
Well, I've got a lot of questions I want to get to. We're gonna merge audiences here a little bit, kind of give people listening kind of your background. And when I say that, I was even checking, distribution this morning. So we're in 35 states and 12 countries now, and so not everybody knows exactly who you are, as if they were from here, maybe they would, right? So kind of give me some who you are.
Who I am. That's a loaded question.
That is a loaded, especially for a counselor, right? It's like,
Yes.
Oh, what do you want out of this?
Yes, it is. So I am a trauma counselor, but I'm also a business owner.
Right.
I am a single divorced woman, survivor of domestic abuse.
Yeah.
I am a survivor of childhood abuse, and I work in that space a lot with those people, men and women. Mm-hmm. And that's what my podcast is about. That's why we go deep, because I cannot live on the surface. I ask the hard questions.
Golly, there's so much to unpack just in that. Mm-hmm. With everything is so surface now, seemingly, right? And everybody's afraid to take the armor off, because once you let somebody in, that's a scary thing. But I know when I had you on the radio show, and then I used to have a psychologist on my radio show all the time, those would be the episodes when people would call and be like, golly, this is something I needed to hear. Like for me, when I was 21, my brother committed suicide. Mm. Well, that's a trauma. And then plus, it came from a divorced house, all these other things. I'm a divorced guy myself, so I understand. But everybody has these things. And not saying everybody has to go around feeling bad for themselves, but it's okay to acknowledge what you've been through.
It is, yes. And it's so prevalent. And so that's what I want for the podcast. In the Deep is about people coming on and telling their stories.
Right.
And expressing what they've gone through, how they've come through it, or if they're in the middle of it. It's kind of like a free counseling session, too, when I have a guest on. But it's so that the people out there can hear it and feel less alone, feel seen, feel validated, realize that they're not the only ones going through this, and then maybe hear another perspective on how to walk through it, how God can bring us through it. And the redemption stories are miraculous, nothing short of miraculous.
Well, so what kind of started this, podcasting is really... It's growing. I jumped in after leaving the radio. Everybody seems to jump in. But what drove you to want to be there?
God.
Yeah, that's the best answer you could have given.
Honestly.
True Sunday school answer. What's the answer? Jesus.
Well, but truly, he's been working on me about this for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
And last year, I thought I said yes because I was teaching a class at Church on the Rock. I teach a class there called Eyes to See. It's healing from hurts, traumas, and toxic relationships.
Yeah.
And the ladies that would miss class said, well, do you record this? Can I see it anywhere else in case, since I missed the anxiety class, or I missed the class on depression, or I missed the class on self-worth, where can I catch up?
Right.
So I started filming recaps of just me and a camera. And I was like, this must be what God was telling me to do when he said to do a YouTube channel. This must be what he meant. It is not what he meant. And I knew it when I was doing it. And it's one of those things where when God pushes us and he pricks our heart to do something, and you have to say yes. And sometimes your yes and what you thought was yes it's got to develop still. And so that's what's happening.
That's exactly right. Okay. because I did my first 3 episodes of podcast. It wasn't called the Zach Ratliff Show. It was called What's Going On or something like that in my real estate office 3 or 4 years ago before I ever did radio. And then I'm just like, I don't know if this takes traction. And then here we are, later. I'm like, okay, I knew you don't know what it's going to look like. And even now, right? It takes some fine tooth combing of it.
Yeah.
But there's a dream or a seed, like you said, that's been put on your heart. So anyway, in the deep, going into this, how's the setup been? When's the rollout? What are we looking like?
So I'm backlogging episodes right now.
Okay.
So I am accepting anybody that would like to come on the show that has either a story to tell. I'm doing certain series. So I'm doing series like my stories. So telling stories of redemption, addiction recovery,
Right.
rehabilitation, life-changing stories, miraculous stories. I'm also doing one called Men Unfiltered.
Yeah.
I have a huge heart for men. I was raised by my dad. He was a wonderful, godly man, still is. And I counsel a lot of men.
Right.
And men are very alone.
Oh, no doubt.
We're all very alone in our own parts of the world, but women have an easier time finding a circle, finding a tribe, having that emotional support.
Right.
Men are really missing that. And so the series Men Unfiltered is about that. It's about men's emotional health, men becoming, how men are functioning in this world of dating and dating apps, because that's a whole nother slew of conversation there. And I have a lot to say to the women in that space too, because I'm one of the women in that space.
Right.
And there's a lot to that, but I do have multiple series coming out. I also have women's stories told. I specialize in narcissistic abuse.
So, everybody thinks they know what narcissistic means. Well, maybe they don't, but everybody assumes to know what a narcissist is. But kind of break that out, like for the people like me, that I'm like, I think I know, but I'm not exactly sure.
Well, it's one of the most overused words
Yeah. Okay.
of our generation, but also one of the most underdiagnosed actual mental disorders,
Right.
because narcissists typically don't go to a counselor to be diagnosed.
Right.
And
why would they?
Yes, and we are all narcissistic to some degree. It is a sliding scale. It is not, you're either narcissistic or you're not. Narcissistic personality disorder is that. It's a personality disorder that
Right.
takes diagnosis from a professional. But everybody's somewhere on the scale. But people that are higher in the narcissistic personality type, which is an antagonistic personality type, also flows into a Machiavellian personality type, which is a very dark, insidious situation. But those people by personality trait are abusive. They, just like by personality trait, you are funny. These people by
At
personality
least to
trait,
myself.
these people by personality trait, they are abusive. So not all abusers are narcissistic, but all narcissists are abusers.
Right.
And there's 7 different types of narcissism. So it can be sneaky. It can be you can be with one narcissist and it's not going to look the same if you date somebody else, male or female. This
Right.
is not an all male thing or all female thing.
Right.
And so specializing in breaking that down for people, helping them see patterns, helping them see cycles. And a narcissist is one of the things they all have in common is they lack empathy.
Right.
They significantly lack empathy. They're extremely entitled. They're selfish people and a deep, deep level of selfishness. We all have
Yeah,
selfishness.
that's what, no, everybody's a little bit selfish to some degree,
Yeah.
which but when that's who you are,
It's who you are at other people's detriment.
Right.
Very, very self-serving. They can only go so deep. The people ask me all the time, I was married to a narcissist for 10 years. Did he not ever love me? Or did she not ever love me? But the answer to that is they love to the level that they can.
Right.
But they cannot love to the level that someone without that antagonistic personality style can love, because they don't love themselves enough. There is actually a deep-seated self-hate and concern of being found out inside of the narcissist.
Okay, so I was asking you, they covered up, and you're saying that it's called masking?
Yes, so they mask and they mirror. Those are two of the
So when you
biggest
say
things
mirror,
they
they're
do.
mirroring your traits?
They're mirroring you. So it's really ironic. At the beginning of a relationship with almost any type of narcissist, we fall in love with ourselves.
Yeah.
Because they're mirroring us. And that's why it's so confusing down the road when those traits start to fall off and you start to think, well, I thought he was really considerate. I thought that she was really, someone that asked me about myself and cared about my feelings. And then all of a sudden they don't care. And all those traits that seemed beautiful about you in the beginning to them are actually the ones that offend them the most now. And it's because they are seeking something that they don't have.
Right.
And then the resentment is so strong inside of them that they want to take it from you.
So let me ask you this. Just in my good old boy language that I speak, there have been times in my life where I've met someone, right? Not in a relationship, like a intimate relationship way, just knowing them throughout I mean, we all know a bunch of people in this town. And I've thought, after meeting them a couple times, like, oh, they're a chameleon. Then you can see them become whoever, even so much as a little bit of accent twist or cadence change, and so that's part of that mirroring that they're doing. Then
it can be, yes. I will say a lot of people are chameleons just out of past trauma too, though, that are not narcissistic people.
Okay,
because they're trying to be enough, fit in, feel like they belong somewhere when they felt like they've never belonged anywhere. So there's a couple of traits that can overlap, and that's why it's also very confusing for anybody in an actual narcissistic relationship. They always end up asking themselves, am I the narcissist? Oh. And usually it's because the narcissist has told you you're the narcissist. But you have to know the difference.
Sure you knew.
But typically, if you're asking that question, you're not the narcissist.
Right.
Narcissists don't ask that. They go, oh, no, I'm not the narcissist. Absolutely not. And,
how could I ever be?
Yeah. But that is the space that I mainly work in. And with that comes a lot. It comes a lot of the childhood survival stories. Because lots of us had a narcissistic parent. Or a narcissistic family member close to us. And that type of mind control, there's a lot of mind games in that. There's a lot that
there's manipulation in
lots of manipulation, and it's confusing and it's debasing. And that's the whole point is that anybody that's been in a close relationship with somebody like this feels so debased, they lose their identity, they don't know who they are, they don't even know what they stand for anymore. And having to regain that, if you can break away from the narcissist, which is a whole thing in and of itself, then...
Well, it's funny that you said narcissist is one of the overused terms of the day, because it is. So I had a guy I worked with. Well, I was trying to make this so I can make some notes. I had a guy that I worked with that he would use the term anomaly all the time. Okay. And he'd be like, oh, well, that's just an anomaly. Well, that's just an anomaly. But he'd say it like 10 times a day. And finally, I'm like, I don't think you know what this word means. If everything is an anomaly, it's not an anomaly.
True.
And I'm like,
a little bit of a contradiction.
It doesn't work at all. And so, but that's what you hear all the time. And especially if anybody spends any time on whatever social media site they're on, TikTok, whatever, YouTube Shorts, there's going to be somebody calling somebody a narcissist on there. And like I said, it's never them. And so I think that's a great point you made. I just wanted to.
Yeah, it is. And I like to base the word in toxic. You know, is it a toxic relationship? We don't have to label somebody. We don't need to diagnose our partners.
Right.
But we can see if it's a toxic pattern and a cycle that is unhealthy and that we need to break out of.
Okay. So then as you're going through this and as you're, I applaud you for opening up this space of podcast, right? This is, because like I said earlier, this is a need, and like I was talking about, dealing with the trauma of my brother dying and killing himself, years ago now. That's still something that at times is real raw to me.
Yeah.
And nothing I can do about it. It's just how I process it. But I tell you what, and good on my parents, even though I was 21, they're like, hey, you need to go talk to somebody over this because it's affecting you, even though you don't know it is.
Yeah.
And I did. But have I ever been to his grave? One time. I just can't do it. I've driven by there. I know exactly where I can walk you to it. I've only been there once. I could never do it.
Yeah.
But that's just some of that stuff that people have that don't want to talk about. That, and even when you get to the suicide part of it, golly, that's heavy. No, it's easier to talk about little Jimmy going and playing football or going fishing or all the fun you've had. But when you get introspective and you're like, hey, these are the things.
Yeah. Yeah, I deal a lot in depression. I struggled with depression most of my life. I'm a suicide attempt survivor. I attempted suicide in my early 20s. And I was in a terrible place. And that's part of my testimony, too, because I was a Christian at the time.
Right.
A lot of people think that Christians don't get depressed or Christians shouldn't get depressed or something's wrong with your walk if you do get depressed.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
The enemy can seep in. There's seeds planted. I had so much unhealed trauma at that time in my life.
Well, still kill and destroy, right? That's what he's here to do. Yeah.
And it works. And
absolutely.
And he doesn't even have to completely pummel us, but for us to stay stuck enough, stagnant enough, confused enough, like just disconnected enough.
Yeah.
That leads to such a dark place.
After my divorce, I looking back, right? You might know you're in it a little bit, But looking back, I realized that towards the end, I was depressed, heavy depressed for two solid years. And I remember, every day, I never let my little girl know that I was depressed.
Yeah.
Dad's going to be there for her, we're going to be strong in this. But I would just be driving down the road just in tears every day. And then I was mad at myself. Why can't I get over this? Why I'm holding my, I'm doing this to myself. And then one day it was like, I was driving down Richmond Road. I remember exactly where I was. And it was like God said, hey, you can be happy again. And it was like a weight fell off me, and I just started laughing and crying, and I was just elated.
That's amazing.
With joy. And I've told people, I feel like if you could have looked in my truck and you'd been driving by, Jesus would have been sitting beside me, because it was like I just felt like he was there in such an overwhelming. And I went to counseling for that to a great Christian counselor who. He was an older guy that was a Navy vet that plays the guitar, and so he would sing to you. He might cuss at you a little bit, and then he'd pray with you.
Counseling and a show.
Yeah, right? But it's so real that nobody wants to talk about it, which is why I was excited about having you on today, because this is real life, and people hurt.
That's all I can talk about.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is people do the should thing for themselves. And my thing that I say all the time in counseling is, do not should yourself. Do not should on yourself. Oh. Don't tell yourself where you should be. Don't tell yourself where you shouldn't be, how you should be past this. You are grieving. And yes, reaching out to God for that healing and him showing up for you like that, 100%. I believe in that. That happens eventually for everyone, but it doesn't look the same for everyone.
That's right.
So where does the should come from? It comes from this weird comparison in our minds, even in our day-to-day lives. Like, I have a lot of moms that are like, I should have done this. I should be the mom that's doing that. I'm like, who said? Who said?
Right.
Are you comparing yourself even to somebody you even know? And even if you are, that's not good. But usually it's not even that.
Yeah.
It's just some weird bar that we've come up with that we can't ever actually achieve, just so we can feel a little disappointed in ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. Don't should yourself.
Don't should yourself.
Like that, because it's so easy, and here's what I say all the time. Nobody goes on Instagram and puts all the bad pictures and all the things that they don't want you to know. Like, oh, here's all the trash that I'm dealing with in my life.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is generally, this is exactly what I want you to see and how I want you to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's real life, right? And that is the selfish side of, we want to present.
Yeah.
And it's okay to want to present the best version of yourself. Don't get me wrong, but when we're comparing our worst times to everybody else's best time, that can't be right.
It's so true. And then when we're in a toxic relationship, I see this all the time, did this myself. We are overly good posting, because usually that person that we're with is asking us, why don't you post a picture of me today? Why aren't you posting pictures of us together? Why aren't you showing the good things?
Is that a thing?
It's very much a thing. They care so much about outer appearance. Toxic, abusive, especially narcissistic people care about outer appearance. They care about what other people think of them. That's why they're so nice to everybody but you. Oh. And it's ironic. I had some women over to my house this past Sunday, and it was just a wonderful time of healing. And they hadn't seen each other in a while. There were women that had come to my class at Church on the Rock, and they hadn't seen each other. And one of them turned to the other, and she said, oh, I thought that you were doing fine. I thought everything was good in your world. I've been watching you on Facebook. Everything looks good. And she said, girl, yeah, Facebook picture perfect.
It's exactly right.
But no, it's hell back here is, the answer. It's actually not okay. I'm not okay. Things are not okay.
Well, and what's the, everybody is, stick your chest out, or except for men, stick your chest out, put your shoulders back, chin up, go take on the world.
Yeah.
You can worry about your feelings once you've done everything else. And I understand sometimes that has to happen, right? I mean, but don't kill yourself over it. Don't get in such a place that you can't crawl out and you're so miserable that you don't want to be around anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I making sense here?
Yes, but it is so hard. That pit is so deep and it is so dark. But you can feel the slip. I could always tell when I was starting to go that direction.
Yeah.
Me and Brandon Cowan talked about this on my show this past week.
Like that guy.
Yeah, and he fights for veterans and the suicide prevention of veterans, and we talked about how to prevent that. And when you start to feel the slip, you've got to reach out. Like before it gets too deep, before it gets too isolating, before you feel so much shame and that's the thing too, I find with so many men, they're like, well, I only reach out when I have problems and I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
Because men are not reaching out on an emotional level when there's not problems.
Right.
Because they're not told they can.
Yeah.
Or they don't have that circle of male friends that have that depth. It's more like, just go lift it off, man. Go to the gym and pump it out. You'll be fine. Or they just rag on each other in their text messages. It's just,
That's real life.
Yes, it is.
Like, if any woman ever read a group of male friends' text messages, a woman in there would, one, be disgusted.
And probably cry.
And two, cry, be like, you guys hate each other.
Yes. And so there's such an important need for men to be there for men. And like, you can still have that back and forth that you have, but there's got to be another level of depth. And it's going to take some men stepping up and asking for it, facilitating it, saying, guys, we're going to get together, and not say we're going to get together and talk about our feelings, because nobody would show up.
No.
But ask some questions of your friends, or pick up the phone and call them one-on-one, because maybe they don't want to have that conversation in the group chat because Bob is in there, and Bob, they don't feel like can go deep for whatever reason. Maybe Bob's a narcissist. I don't know. But, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take some men in their own circles facilitating it.
That's exactly right. And, even with my group, I'm there's everybody's part of a few different groups in life. And I sent a text message to one of my groups this morning and said, hey, got some stuff going on. Just need some prayer. I appreciate it. And instantly, boom, 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 boom. Hey, man, we're with you.
Yes.
And then my other group, too, I didn't send it to them, but just because after that I got busy. But it's nothing for me, especially when I was going through my divorce and all the things, I would be like, hey, I just need somebody to hang out with. They'd be like, yeah, come over. Now, they might make fun of you a little bit, but in fun, but they would open their door, open their home, open their shop, whatever. Hey, we'll just all come over there and hang out.
Yeah.
Without that circle, and then even, luckily for me, or maybe, I don't know if it's luck so much as God, during that time, one of my other buddies has started a Bible study group that was Wednesdays at noon.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we'd take lunch and we'd go do that. And a lot of times we wouldn't even get to the study. It would just be like, here's what God's doing in my life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Here's what God's doing in my life. And so,
Yeah, that's so good. It's so nice that you have that. A lot of men don't.
No.
A lot of men have nobody.
Right.
And so that's a dangerous place. The enemy wants to isolate us. And that's also what every traumatic, toxic, and abusive relationship has in common is isolation. And that's how you know it's evil. Because the enemy wants to divide and conquer is a lot easier when you have other people speaking life into you, speaking truth into you, giving you another perspective, getting a word from God to give to you. Then you can change, your life can change. But if you're not having that, you have no other input but what's up here and the seeds that have been planted and the lies that have been told, it's very dangerous.
Well, and then correct me if I go off on the weeds here. So it's good to get a word from God. I believe you can get a word from God. I believe in the literal Bible, and I believe in Acts that the spirits of the fruit happen and that you can work them. But also believe in evil. And there are those people, and they might not even know they're perpetrating evil, that they will tell you they've heard from God, and they will manipulate you in such a way to isolate you.
Very true.
I mean, is that...
Yeah.
Am I onto something
real.
here?
You are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because thankfully in my life, that hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been times where I'm like, hey,
when you're in a vulnerable state, especially, is when to pay attention for that. And that's where your own discernment comes in. And that's why you always test the spirits.
Right.
Take it to prayer, take it to the word,
Right.
and compare to that. I tell a lot of people that have gotten out of an abusive or toxic relationship, they're in such a vulnerable state. And then they might have the most well-meaning friends, the most well-meaning family speaking some things into them.
Right.
They are not evil people. They do not have evil intention.
No.
But they're still angry for their friend or their family member, and they're speaking this thing over. I actually had this happen a couple weeks ago in a counseling session. And I said, was that your thought? Or if that person hadn't said that to you, would you have felt that way at all?
yeah.
And my client had to take a step back, and they're like, wow, I actually was okay with that. It wasn't a big deal to me. And then when they said it, it made it a big deal to me. And that re-sparked anger and resentment and frustration when they were in a peaceful place.
Right.
That person was just trying to stand up for them and say, you should stand up for yourself. But they'd already done the healing.
Right.
And kind of re-wounded. And so you have to be so discerning about who you allow your emotional access to, who knows your details.
Right.
And if it's not somebody that's proven they can be trusted with that information, then don't continue to open yourself up that way to them.
I like that. Who knows your details? Everybody doesn't need to know everything about you.
Yeah.
It's just, and maybe it's that people want to trust so much that they're willing to give that away. If you know something about me, you have earned it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, other than the fact that we do it on, you know, for thousands of people to see around the world. But, you know, but even when you were saying that, I can think of people in my life that if I called right now, I'm like, hey, I need whatever, they would drop everything and do for me. But when they were trying to help me heal, they would say things. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it that way.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, no, but you should. I appreciate that you think that, but I'm going to handle it a different way. And if you don't like that, that's okay.
Yeah.
But we're just not going to talk about it because I don't have the headspace to do it the way that I need to do it and then have this thought process interfere with it.
Exactly.
But now, to do that, also, I can be real stubborn, and thank God for it, because if I couldn't, that's two trains of thoughts that don't work unless you can just make up your mind to, I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I always point out the Bible says to seek wise counsel. It doesn't say just seek counsel.
Oh, boom.
And so that's important. What is wise, you know, and wisdom comes from the word.
Well, and just because somebody has wisdom in some areas doesn't give you wisdom in all areas.
Or in your life at all.
Yeah.
And so the discernment is important. And I will say people that leave or are trying to leave toxic and abusive relationships because of the isolation they've experienced, they are kind of word vomiting on almost anybody that will hear it sometimes because they're looking for validation. They're looking to be told, you know, this is real. You're not crazy. Yes, you should leave. Yes, it's okay to go. They're wanting permission. And so they end up getting rewounded or misguided because they just want to be heard, and they end up giving that access to someone that doesn't deserve it and won't do the right things with it.
Golly, man, there's a lot to unpack right there, but that's real life, and I think that's what your podcast seemingly is going to be around. I mean, you know, I guess this is the second or third time that I've met you, but you just give off this presence of wanting to help, wanting to heal, wanting to see people do better. Yeah. And is that where...
That's all that I want. Yeah. It's so funny. Even when I was little and people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I went through all the phases, you know, but even when I was 8 years old, I think I said I wanted to be a psychologist.
Yeah.
And, but then it turned into, I don't care what I am. I just want to change at least one person's life for the better.
Right.
Like, that was my goal. And God has blessed me enough to witness some changes in people's lives that He has changed for the better. And awesome. I'm just get to be a part of it. Yeah. It's such an honor. And in counseling and teaching my class at the church, that's touched so many women's lives, which touches their children's lives, which hopefully touches their children's lives. When you can break generational cycles, break generational curses, that's what I do.
You know, I can remember I grew up living with my dad, and one thing he did for me that I carry on to my daughter is every night before I would go to sleep. So every night before she goes to sleep, sometimes I lay down with her because she's 10 and she's like, hey, will you lay down with me until I go to sleep or whatever? I'm like, absolutely. Because one day she's not going to want me to, you know, and I want to treasure every second of that. But God created you in your mom's belly. He sewed you together. The Bible tells us that. He knows every hair on your head. He loves you the way He created you. And I tell her that every day. Aww. You're awesome. And you can, and I love that you try hard, and just because the world's coming. Yeah. And it's my job for as long as I can. Yeah. To be that shield to say, hey, you can't have her yet. Yeah. You can't touch her yet. And so I just pour in everything that I have to, and however long I'm allowed to do that, which hopefully, you know, she's never like, okay. Yeah. but life's coming. But I need to feel her so full of Jesus loves you. God has a plan for you. You were created who you need to be and how you need to be. Mm-hmm. And that way the world, when it's down, yeah, you know, she can be like, okay, I've got something in this tank to fill me up.
I would say the best gift my dad ever gave me aside from the gift of knowing God and introducing me to God and who He is, and being the tangible male presence of that on earth. That's what dads are called to do.
That's right.
And it's so significant for a girl, especially.
Yes.
It's really significant for men, which is also why men are in such crisis right now. But I will say the biggest gift my dad ever gave me was telling me that I could do and be anything in this world.
That's right.
And that I could dream.
Yeah.
And gave me permission to dream, told me to dream, talked to me about dreaming, let me be unboxed all the time. And that has, in my life, paid off over and over and over again, because I just can't think small.
Right.
I can't limit myself.
Yeah.
And limited thinking is something that keeps so many people held back in their purpose for Christ, their purpose for the kingdom. And even in their conversations with the people that have been put in front of them, all the people around us, we're to steward.
Yes.
All of my friends, all of the people, the person that I'm going to run into at the gas station today, God put in front of me to steward something with that relationship.
That's exactly right.
And so if you believe enough in who you are and who God says you are because somebody told you that,
right,
then you're just going to go out in the world and make all the more difference. And so you're doing the Lord's work with your daughter.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. On Sunday, Zach Yodell preached at church, and part of his message was there's purpose in the process. And that's just what you just explained, right? There's a purpose for what you're doing here right now. Somebody's going to hear this today that you will never meet.
Yeah.
That will be affected by the message that you're bringing.
I hope so.
I mean, it's awesome. But then you talk about being allowed to create. I don't know. My daughter, when she was 6 or so, she's like, "Oh, I want to do a YouTube channel." I'm like, "All right, let's set you one up.
That's awesome.
Let's see what it is." So anyway, you know, I really hadn't worried about that much, and then the other day, and I guess maybe about a year ago, I said, "Are you still putting videos on there?" You know, and she's like, "Yeah." And then the other day she goes, "Hey, I got a lot of views on one of my videos," and I look, and it was 10,000. She had one, just
oh my goodness,
she had one hit 10,000 views, and she goes, "Is that good?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's solid." And
what are her videos of? Not of her, I would assume.
Well, it's her doing, you know, she bakes brownies.
Oh, okay, like doing things.
Yeah,
I mean, like she's not in a talk show.
No, it's her cleaning her room, or it's her. Just whatever, you know, it's her, you know, at first it was her taking horse riding lessons, whatever.
Neat.
But I gave her the freedom to just do what you want to do. Here are the boundaries. We can do it inside. We don't have comments. We don't talk to people on the internet. We don't, you know, we're going to have some safeguards. It all goes through an email address, obviously, that I have access to. But so when you said that, I'm like, you should be allowed to create.
Yeah, she should. And you know, I'm an entrepreneur. My dad is an entrepreneur. Yeah. And people have asked me many times, you know, to what do you attribute your business success, your entrepreneurial success? Right. And I say that it's just bred into me, but it was taught into me because of my dad. But it really comes from unlimited thinking is really what it comes from.
Well, that's all. So when you have some of these guys come in and counsel or whatever, do you see that that's something that's been limited on them as well throughout life, and that's why they kind of how they get in trapped in?
Somewhere it's there, yeah. And it might not be a overall casting of things, but it could be something as simple as, you know, all you're ever going to do is go work at the factory 9 to 5, kill yourself, come home. You're lucky if you got a woman that'll marry you,
right?
You know, and some kids that'll say hi to you. Like just a limited, like this is all my life will ever be.
Yeah.
Never instilled that you can, you know, what is that hobby that you love? You could turn that into a business, you know, or you can go create something. You can be artistic, or, you know, for men, a lot of times they are not taught that they can do non-manly things or non-manly conformed, like how they were raised things, and be interested in that. There's plenty of men that had dreamed about doing other things, but their dad told them it was stupid, or that was, you know, why would you waste your time with that? And so they don't. I
have to thank my grandma for that. So my grandmother was a dance teacher in Hope, Arkansas. And so I took you know, I've been in a few tap recitals in my life. And then I would ask my dad, I'm like, why do I have to hit? And he would say, a real man isn't embarrassed about the talents that he has.
Yes, I love that.
You know, and so that was the answer. You weren't less manly for taking dance. You were more manly because you weren't worried about what the world thought about you. But that's the thing. Of course, you know, any of my cousins or whatever would always see my tap dancing photos or whatever and be like, oh, and I'm like, hey, I was up there. I did it. Where were you?
Yeah.
You know, that is interesting. That so as we're going, you're backlogging these episodes. You're going into all this. What's the rollout look like? When's that coming?
So the rollout is probably mid to late February.
Okay.
Is the plan. I'll be releasing one episode a week, and once I start, I will not be stopping.
Yeah.
And who knows where it's going to go? I expect big things because I have a big God.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I just expect big things from God. And
he delivers if you expect him.
He does, and I'm just going to keep doing the next right thing and taking the steps that I feel like he's guiding me to.
Right.
And I don't know what this will look like a year or 2, 5 years from now, but I hope to be doing it full time.
Right.
I hope to be doing it. I live in Kansas and Texas. I split my time between both states, so I have to go build out a podcast studio in Kansas now since I have mine in Texas all settled finally.
Right.
And it's going to be wonderful. And I encourage anybody that has felt stifled in any way to reach out and come share their story. Come talk to me. Let's go deep about it.
What's the website that they can get to you on?
So my Facebook is the best way to get to me. I know, old fashioned, apparently, but it's Lyndsey with a Y, so LYNDSEY, and then McKinnon McKinnon. But also they can go to YouTube and YouTube at In the Deep Podcast.
Okay.
So.
And if I will tag that podcast to my YouTube when I put this episode out, if you want, and then that
Please. And I will say that there's the episodes that are on there right now are just my recaps from my classes.
Yeah.
So it's just me. That's the old fashioned version. Don't judge it by that. The new podcast is.
Well, I saw your studio on Facebook.
Yes.
I mean, it looks beautiful. I mean,
Thank you.
It's not a deer head and a sign, which my sign is beautiful, but
yes.
Elmwood Custom Goods.
I have some taxidermy in my room. Though.
Do you?
I have a squirrel. I have a coyote. I have an otter.
Oh, awesome.
And I have taxidermy in my house. I have a giraffe head. I have a peacock. I love taxidermy. So, but yes, so please go In the Deep Podcast on YouTube or Lyndsey McKinnon on Facebook and send me a message. And my information's out there. I mean, I even put my cell phone out there because that's what I do for counseling.
Right.
It doesn't scare me. What's somebody going to do with my cell phone number?
Oh, same. I sell real estate for a living, so
Yeah.
give that number away, please.
Yeah. And but either way, when you go to the channel, don't judge it yet. But there is some good nuggets in there. I have videos on depression. I have videos on attachment styles, anxiety, things like that. So
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah.
I look forward to watching your show and to seeing what's coming of it.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. I hope God blesses each and every one of you today.